130 rolls of pennies. That's 6,500 pennies, folks. We have a good hunt ahead of us here. I am hoping we can find some good stuff. We've had some pretty good luck with pennies in the last few hunts here. So although I've had a couple boxes that were duds as well. So it's quite possible that some of the stuff does get hunted before I get to it. But I pulled these out of a bank, a local bank here in my town, and we're going to give them a try. I kind of looked through the ends. I believe, and I looked at these a while ago, I believe I did see a couple young heads when I was looking through. Nothing, oh yeah, so there's one right there. There's a 1967 commemorative penny there. So yeah, so that might have been the one I saw. So there might be some stuff there. Who knows what year that is? It was a 64. There's lots of those floating around. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to getting started on this. Let's start with this roll here. What I do with the pennies, there is lots to look for in pennies. So some of the modern stuff, there is a bunch of them that you need to be really careful that you don't miss. So things like the 2001 P, the 2000 W, 1999 P, all the 2003s have some different variations. The 2006s have some different variations, and there's a few of them that are quite rare. So what I tend to do is pull out all the 2003s, all the 2006s, 2001s, and the 2002s. I'm looking for the stuff that's non-magnetic quite often. That is supposed to be magnetic, but there's a couple different variations to look for. So I pulled all that stuff out. I'll set that aside, and I kind of look at that separately to see if I can find anything in there. Then also things like 1954s, the 1964s and 65s. There's some variations in there, so I want to pull those out. And they're not particularly rare, but if you can find the variations, they are. So we want to do that. All the US stuff I'll throw into a separate jar, and I'll search that separately. I have a list. I'll look through for anything that the kind of, you know, the major varieties, but I may miss stuff. Any wheat pennies, of course, I will bring you in for any of the older stuff in the Canadian pennies. In the 60s and 70s, copper pennies, they're heavier. They're almost a third bigger than the modern pennies. And they're 100% copper, so I stick all those into a jar as well. So that's my process. So we will start going through this and sorting, and I will bring you in when I find something interesting. All right.
Let's just have a good time, live a good life. What you mean when you say you a new heights? What you mean when you play like all night? Nightlife is a highlight. I'm a fly guy, this is skyline. I don't got the time for my problems. I got the time to dissolve them. Music is my oxygen, I'm putting no stopping. Human but my oxygen, the music when it's dropping. Some of these vibes provided in these lines. I'm trying to design the rhyme, checking my mind. Music be described, I got ahead of my time. Deep prescribed, cause I feed it full of lines. Money ain't nothing, you turn it into something. I'm signing for the money, make you look real funny. Put my own name in discussion, I'm a hustler. Working real hard to show you that I'm coming. So let me tell you that it's going.
Roll 2, and we've got some finds here. So we got a 1943 King George VI, so that's a nice find to pick up. Decent shape, and always happy to find some King George VI. We also had a new penny from the UK. There is was a 1998. This was a pain. It was right in the middle of the roll, and pennies did not want to come out because this thing is obviously larger than our pennies. So the first bundle's done, and what I thought I would do is I'm just going to probably do it by bundle for now. So I'll do 10 at a time, and we'll bring you in at the end and kind of show you what I found. So what I found so far is another 1963. I had found a 43 earlier, so 1963 young head, and I also found a wheat cent, US wheat cent, and it is a 1953D. Again, I'm not really looking at varieties here, but yeah, I don't see anything jumping out at me for the 53D. Also, so what I'm doing is I'm just throwing the 2007s and 2009s as I go through, just aside, and I just run a magnet over them. If they're magnetic, then they're not the ones I'm looking for. What else? So all the 65s I just throw up here, and I'll go through all the varieties. There's quite a few different varieties on the 65s. Then I did find another penny as well. Then I just take all the 2003s, 2006s, and 2010s, and I've thrown them in a pile. I'll just run a magnet over. It'd be easier to do them as a big chunk. If I find anything exciting, I will bring you back in when I'm done. Bundle 2 is down, so we're 20 rolls in, and we did get some finds out of that bundle. So a bunch of stuff here. Got quite a few in the 60s. These are all young heads, the 64, 63, 62s. I got 2 of them. I got 4 of the 64s. I also have a 59 and a 56, all in the young heads. And then we have a 1945 King George VI. So that's a nice find there for sure. All of the young heads down to 53 all have a hanging variant where there's a die clash over top of the last number of the date, and so they call them the hanging 6, hanging 9, whichever. None of these have that, so I've checked them for that. The 62 has the harp and guitar version where there are some lines underneath the 1 between the leaf and the 1, and so I've checked that for that. There's none there. The 64s are super common. I'm going to throw them in my bin with the rest of the 60s and 70s. I have checked these all for the various variants with these. So one of them is a little dot above the 9. There's, of course, the hanging version. This is the hanging 4. There's another where there is an extra spine in that branch there, right in that top fork. Just a little die chip that shows up in there. So that's another variant that's in there. And and then there's also the missing MG. So there's been some where I guess the letters are missing, which are right on the bottom of the effigy here, and they're very hard to see. I don't know if you can see as I kind of catch the light. You can probably see it there. Anyways, the initials of the artist, and these all have them. So these will just get tossed in with the rest of the 60s and 70s copper. Then, of course, we also have a wheat cent that I found. It's a 1955D. And nothing too special, but it is a wheat penny, so I'll stick that up with the other wheat penny that we found earlier. And then we also got a couple foreigns. So we have this one here, which I didn't even look at, but 1 krona. So where's that, Sweden? I'm not sure. So I didn't have that one before. We got the 2-cent euro, and I have found lots of these. And then we also found a dime that is so corroded it kind of looked like a penny. So up a little bit because of the dime. Stick that up there, and the foreigns up there as well. And that's it. Bundle 3 is down, so we're 30 rolls in, and not that many this time. So this is what we got out of those 10 rolls. We did get another actually we got a few 1964s, and I did check that one already, so that can go in with the rest of the copper. And then 1963 and 3 1962, all young heads. So that was it. The only other thing is on actually the last bundle that I had done, I forgot about the one find that I did get. So it's over here on the Microscope, and it is a 1985 pointed 5. So that's kind of cool. Probably, in that condition. I haven't even looked at the condition that closely. It's probably worth $1. Maybe a bit more. I don't know. So yeah, 1985. It's got a big gouge on the cheek, so maybe not. But yeah, it's the first pointed 5 I have actually found. And you can see the difference. So that's a 1985 pointed 5. And actually I've pulled out a regular 85, and you can see the difference there. So there's no point on the top part of that 5. It's all blunt, and the 85 has the angle to it. So that's cool. Happy to have found that, and count that as a find. Stick that up here with the rest. And that's it. So we'll move on to the box next. 40 rolls in, and we have a few finds here. So actually, the very first thing I found in one of the first rolls was this, which I've never seen before. It is a pain in the butt to get out, too, because it was right at the beginning of the roll, and it did not want to come out. It was jammed in there. But yeah, it's 2006 New Zealand, whatever that is, 10 something. So yeah, that's kind of cool. It's almost got like a waxy look to it. And yeah, I've not seen one of those before, so that's kind of a cool foreign find. I got 1963 and a 64. Oh yeah, 64 I've already checked, so I can go over it there. 63 I'll put up with the rest of them. And then I did find a non-magnetic 2009. So it's not super, super rare, but around 36, 37 million for these, and it's in nice shape, so I'll hang on to that one. And then we also got a couple wheat cents, so we got a couple nice ones here. We got a 1944 and a 1938, both Philadelphia, I think. Yeah, both Philadelphia, so that's awesome. I'll stick that over with the wheat cents here. And yeah, we're off to the next bundle. 50 rolls in. We've got a few more finds here. Nothing too exciting, but we do have a 1951 King George VI. It's in pretty beat up condition, but it's not too, you know, I'll keep it. It's King George. And we got two 1963s. We also have a another very rusty dime to add to the other one we got. And this one's actually a US dime. I didn't even look at the date on it. Yeah, 2004. So I'll stick that over there with the other dime. And then we did get another wheat cent. So we got 1958D wheat cent. All right, we just finished off roll 60 here, and we've got a few more finds. So we have two more 63s, a 60, a 59, and a 55. And then we also have a 2005P, which are fairly rare. The mintage on them, unfortunately, but they are very hard to find. This is only the second one I've found, I think, so far. So, and I've gone through, I don't know how many tens of thousands of pennies. So, so definitely hanging on to that one. I'll stick that up here with the other. So we're only on roll 74. I haven't quite got through the last 10 here. But I thought I'd stop because I did find kind of an interesting roll. I haven't actually opened it to see what's in the roll other than what I can see from the sides. So I'm sure you can see it there as well. So that's a win. I got an extra 20 cents in here, or 18 if you want to get technical. All right, doesn't look like anything too exciting in here, but I will go through and finish these up. Got a couple up here. I might as well go through them while we're here. So we did get a 1951, King George VI. So that's kind of nice to get some of the older ones. And we got another 1962. This is actually a hanging 2, but it is pretty faint. I've seen much better examples of it, and the penny itself is not in great shape. So I don't know if I'll even bother to set it aside as a hanging 2, but I don't know if you can see it there. If we can get the light to hit it. And now that I'm getting the light to hit it, you can see a bit better. I'll decide afterwards. I'll set it aside as a hanging 2. Typically, you can maybe get a little bit more money for a hanging 2, maybe 50 cents to $1, but usually only for kind of mint state ones. So anyway, it's nice to find it. It's a little different than everything else I've been getting. So all right, moving on. I'll bring you back in at the end of this box, and then we'll move on to the next one. 80 rolls down and 50 to go. So not a lot, but we did find a few coins here we're going to keep. So we did get a nice 1964. It's in pretty decent shape. Lots of luster still on there. So I did check it for all the variants, and it does not have any, unfortunately. But still, it's nice enough that I will keep it. I don't normally keep a 64 just because of the mintage of them, but that's in great shape. So 1961 and a 1956 as well. Check them both for the hanging 5s and 6s, or 1s and 6s, I guess, on there. And then we did get a Barbados 1 cent, so we'll add that to the foreign collection up here. And I am kind of setting aside, I want to keep a couple extras of some of the more rare, more modern coins. They're not super, super rare, but like things like the 2002 P, I wasn't keeping them, and then I thought, you know what, I'm going to pick out like the few best ones that I can get, maybe slab them up. Just so I have some extras. This 1991 is not particularly rare, but the one I have in my book is worse than this, and so I'm just setting it aside, and if I can find a better one than that even, then I can replace the one in my book. I hadn't opened this other box to show you, so I thought I would just quickly show you before I start digging into it. So they seem to have this kind of odd tape on there. I've not seen that tape before, so I don't know whether that means good things or bad things, but anyway, I will go through all these and see what we can find. Another 10 rolls down, so we're on roll 90. And yeah, we've got, is that right? Yeah, roll 90. So we did get some finds out of that group. We got some more 63s here, 57 and a 55, all young heads. Check them all for the hanging whatevers, hanging 7s, hanging 5s, and so on. They do not have them. And I got a couple wheat cents as well, 1944 Philadelphia and a 1950 Denver. So slowly picking up some finds as we go here. And I did have to upgrade my cup for the 60s and 70s copper there. I will go through those afterwards, see if any of those upgrade my book, and then the rest I'll probably sell off. Roll 100 and a few more finds. Nothing too exciting. A couple more 63s and a 1960. So we had a couple more rolls to go before I was going to bring you in, but I just thought I'd bring you in on this one. This is kind of an interesting roll. It's all like that. I don't know if I can show by looking here, but they're, you know, I've kind of started stuffing them back in because I'm not going to bother dumping all these out. They're just a mess. But, well, anyway, you can see on these, like, look at this one here. I don't know if this is from a fire, but they're all like this. They're all beat up, covered in soot or whatever the heck that is. And yeah, that's kind of interesting. You can see the soot has rubbed off, so there's all the high points are kind of quite shiny, but the rest of it's all black. So anyway, yeah, that was thought that was interesting. 20 rolls to go, 110 rolls in, and we have a few more finds here. So we've got a 1963, two 61s, a 59, a 45 King George VI. So we've got a few of the older ones here back in the 40s. It'd be nice to find some 1930s and 1920s, but I guess you can't be too picky. 1944 wheat cent as well that I picked up out of there. So yeah, we're getting some nice finds. 120 rolls in, and we have a few more finds here. So it's kind of an interesting bunch of bundles. Oh, I forgot to go through. We'll just do that on camera. So these are all magnetic, so don't need those. And so what I do here, these are 2010s, 2006s, and 2003 Ps with the old effigy. And I just go through looking for any that might be magnetic. What I really would like to find is some 2006 Ps. They seem to be elusive. So these ones I'm looking for a magnetic version of the 2006 with no mint mark on it. And then I'm also looking for a magnetic version of the 2010s. I have gone through hundreds, if not thousands of these and not found any yet. So the rest of the real finds here are some 63s, 62s. I think I got 3 of them there. Yeah, 2 62s, 2 61s. Did get a 1942 and a 1940 King George VI, so those are nice finds. Also got some wheat cents up here, a 1957D, a 1945D. I think this is a 1952D. It's pretty toasty. Also got a dime in there, so that's my 5th dime in this hunt. Throw that up there. And then these two are both the hanging versions of these young heads. So 61 and a 62, they're not in the greatest shape, and the definition of the die clash there is not so great. So that's the 61. So the 61 actually misses the number. I don't know if you can really make it out there. And that might actually be after minting damage, but it kind of looks like the way it's supposed to, which it misses, kind of goes around the right side of the 1. So I'm not terribly worried about either one of these because they're not particularly great examples. I found much nicer ones of that. And then that's the 62. If we kind of turn it, you can see the reflection of the die, kind of an S-shaped. And again, it's not a very good one. So I'm not too worried about those. I'm probably just going to keep them in with the rest because they're just not good examples. And to get any value, you want to have a little bit better quality ones anyway. So, all right, the second box is done. We are finished this hunt. I decided not to go through and do the 1967s to look for the doubling. It is quite a pile of coins in there, and it would take a long time, and it's been many hours as I've gone through these pennies. There's a lot to look for, and it takes a long time. So yeah, I'm going to stop it here, and we'll just go through what I've got. So this is out of the last 10 rolls. So we did get some more 62s, 61, some 56s there, a 55, 52, and a 51. Check them all for the hanging numbers, and didn't find any. So let's just move these up, and 262. So there you have it. That's what I have pulled out of here as far as the 60s. So 63s, 62s. I'm not going to bother counting them up. You can kind of get an estimation there of what all's in there. 60, a few 59s, 157, 456s, 355s, 53, a 52, and 351s. We also got some King Georges, which I guess actually some of these are King Georges as well. The 51s. And the 52, I believe. Yeah, it's King George VI. 1940, a 1942, a 43, and 2 45s. This is the hanging 62 that I found that was pretty decent. And then behind that is probably one of the stars of the hunt, to be honest, because it's the only one I've ever found. Is a pointed 1985. You know, it's not in the greatest shape, but it is a decent find, and it is fairly rare and hard to find. So that was kind of cool. I'll just leave it up there. The rest of this stuff, we got a decent 64 there, and then these are some of the harder to find, more modern coins, or just looking to try and improve what I've got in my book. So these are the P's, the 2002 P's, which are a little bit more difficult to find. Got a stack of 91s there. I'm just going to pull the best one out to replace the one in my book, which is pretty brown. A couple, I guess we only got the one 2005. I thought I had picked up another one. Maybe I accidentally threw that back in. Anyway, so 2005 P, they're pretty hard to find as well. And I don't know if you can see that P there. 2009, these are the non-magnetic, I believe. Yeah, so these are the non-magnetic ones, which are a little more difficult to find as well. And I'm just going to keep probably one or two of the best out of there. What else? We got a bunch of dimes. I ended up getting 5 dimes out of that. Some foreign coins up there, which you would have seen recently. Some of the US coins that we got over here. So these are all wheat cents. I guess I should have flipped these over for the dates. So I'll hang on to them. Some earlier ones, 1944, a couple 1944s there. And there's a 1938 up in the corner there. So then I went through all these 65s. So I leave these to the end because they are so hard to find, to be able to tell the difference between a pointed and a blunt 5. There's also a small bead and a large bead version. So these are the small bead ones, and these are the large bead. I'm just going to probably keep they're not particularly valuable. There's not a whole lot more value, even though I've got a lot more of the large beads than the small beads. I'm probably just going to keep the nicest one of the bunch there. So it's a large bead blunt 65. And this is probably the 3 of the small beads I'll keep, just because I couldn't decide which one was the nicest, so I'll just hang on to those 3 for now. And so these are all the blunt 5s. So there are 2 that appear to be the pointed 5s, which are these 2 here. And I forget which one was the nicer of the 2. So this is the 65 that I believe is pointed. And yeah, you can fairly easily see that angle on that 65. This is the other one, which is slightly more questionable, but I think it's also a pointed 65. They are very hard to tell the difference. If I pull, say, the blunt, what I think is the blunt 65 over, and you tell me. So I'm going to use this one because that's one I'm almost positive is a pointed 65. So one of the keys is you want to make sure that you've got everything kind of straight up and down, so you kind of see that angle. It's supposed to be on a 45-degree angle, that point on the top of the 5 there, heading over towards the branch. And then if I push the other one in here so you can see it, you should be able to see the difference. You can see that's much more up and down. The problem is all the 65s have some angle on them, and they seem to vary from die to die. So there are some that are almost straight up and down, and there are some that are a little bit more pointed than that one. But I am fairly certain that this one, at the very least, is a pointed 65. You can see that's a much more pronounced angle on that 5. It's closer to the branch. And then the other one, I'm pretty sure is also that pointed 65. So these are both the small bead versions. I did check them, and so they're both small beads, so they're not the most expensive ones anyway. To find a couple of them is pretty decent. I'm happy with that. What was I going to... Oh, I was also going to just show you the difference between the small bead and the large bead. So for those of you who don't know what to look for, it's fairly easy. You flip them over, you look for the Regina on the coin. Again, make sure your coin is, the A is straight up and down. You want to look at that A, and you want to see the point. So this is the large bead. The point of the A is just pointing to the right of a bead. And then if I pull in a small bead and do the same, get that lined up, and you can see that A is just pointing to the left. And you can see that those beads are actually quite a bit smaller. So that's a small bead. A is pointing just to the left of a bead, and this is a large bead, and you can see how much bigger those beads are, and the A is pointing to the right of the bead. So that's how you tell the difference between the 2. So there are a couple of varieties there, and like I said, I always leave them to the last because they're just trying to figure out whether you've got a pointed 5 or a blunt 5 is a pain. I've had these back and forth on the microscope a couple times. So anyway, so we've got some finds. We've got 2 pointed 65s, I believe. small bead versions, and we also have these 85 pointed. These ones are much easier to find or to tell the difference. So yeah, not a bad haul. Happy with that. I'm going to go through. I got a stack of shiny ones over there, mostly 80s and 90s. I'll kind of compare them to my book and see what's going on, and then I will go through that bucket of 70s there, or 60s and 70s. And then that was what I pulled out in US. That wasn't a wheat cent, so there did seem to be some ones that were in pretty decent shape. So I will go back through these and see if they replace anything in my book as well. All right, long hunt, lots of coins, 130 rolls of pennies. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that, and hopefully it wasn't too long. Thank you very much for coming along for the ride, and you guys have a great day. Take care. Please remember to like and subscribe.